Tim, and welcome to Watches Live 16. You're looking at me at a wonderfully oblique angle as we open this episode. The theme is wheels and watches. Tonight, we acknowledge that most people who like luxury watches also like fine cars. Whether you're into high performance, vintage, exotics, American muscle, we've got a little bit of everything on the table tonight. And in the spirit of our automotive co-theme, we are giving away hats that are watch and wheel themed. All of the brands you see here, Oris, TAG Heuer, Bell & Ross, and Hublot, associated with motorsports or luxury automobiles. Now, of course, this is an interactive show. Ask your questions away in the live chat box if you have that interface online. And we're giving away stuff, so I can send stuff to you. This is how it works. Tim@thewatchbox.com. Give me your real name, phone number, and mailing address, because remember, I can't email you a free hat, and I will enter you into our drawing. If you've already entered, you're already in. If you've previously won, you can win again. You can win again, I should say. Don't be that guy who sends me 40 emails. If you're in already, and you can win again. Let me shout out welcome guys. Eddie Landsberg, first. You're always first, Eddie. You are sharp. Edward Ledden joining from Sweden. Tom P. Halebap, ST3. Watch Doctor. Simon Holt. Don Gizzle from Germany. Todd Piasecki. Gilberto M. Russell 996. Fjord Prefect. Aaron Binder. Ryan H. Welcome, guys. All right, tonight we're going to start with watches that are surprisingly affordable. And I also want to know, in the chat box, tell me, what is your favorite car? What is your dream car? Your equivalent of a Grail watch. What would you drive if there were no restrictions on price? If there were no restrictions on garage space or insurance? If there's only one in the world and you could have it, what is that car for you? And I'll share a little bit of mine as we go through. Okay, tonight, let's talk about watches that people can actually buy. Because while your dream car might be dear, you might be closer to a Grail level automotive watch than you imagine. Let's start with a watch that, quite frankly, I think might be one of the most underrated of the modern era. We're all caught up with the new JLC Polaris line this year, but people forget that back in 2005, the JLC Amvox 1 was the original tribute to the Polaris, reprising the hands, the typeface, the dial layout, even the internal bidirectional rotating dive-style bezel, and the perforated caseback was a tribute to that original 1968 Polaris. Now, of course, that one had 16 perforations. This one has fewer than that, but we are going to forgive that oversight because this watch was sensational. 42 millimeters in stainless steel, it's automatic, it's an alarm, and you can see the elements that Aston Martin brought to the table with the bottom 90 degrees of the dial not calibrated like a tachometer scale, a tachometer on a dashboard, or a speedometer. Now, the watch is wonderfully slim. You can see that gorgeous box section sapphire designed to recall a mid-century plexiglass. When I turn it over, however, you can see it, but you can't hear it. This is what I have to give you if I've given you an alarm watch. I have to give you a listen. Calibre 918 automatic winding. In service from 1983 to about 2008. It's not the roar of an Aston Martin V12, but believe me, it will wake you up in the morning. Now, this is a fantastic watch because, first of all, unlike all of the Polaris tribute watches, this watch is its own thing. It's not attempting to be a line-for-line, note-for-note, millimeter-for-millimeter reproduction of anything. You can see the Polaris, you can also see a vintage speedometer, but it's neither nor. It's its own watch, and 20 years from now, this is a watch for which JLC will think about issuing tribute models. The tribute to Polaris models, I don't know, because they bask in reflected glory. This watch has its own identity, and all that for under $7,000 in stainless steel. That is a watch that I can get on board with. Now, of course, that was not the only Aston Martin series watch. The series ran from 2005 to 2015 when it ended with the Amvox 7, but the first two were all-timers. I'm actually wearing my own personal Amvox 2 tonight. Now, the Amvox 2 was a path beyond compared to the Amvox 1. More ambitious, even more original. It was like a concept watch, and originally priced at under $16,000. It wasn't even within the realm of Grail watches, and, you know, frankly, if you're in the price range where you could think about buying a Ducati, a Harley Davidson, or a Boston Whaler, you could have owned this watch new. Now, pre-owned, these sell for under $7,000. Here's the thing. It's actually a articulated case. It has no pushers for the chronograph. You use the case to reset the watch, start the watch, and you have parallel counters in disc form for hours and for minutes with a three-dimensional dial. Again, if it said Richard Mille, it would be a six-figure watch. Column wheel, vertical clutch, two-barrel, 65-hour power reserve, all in titanium. What I love about these first two Amvoxes is that the branding is so discreet. You see it on the case back, and then there's hardly anything visible. You can just barely see the wing logo on the dial side. And on the Amvox 1, you'll note it's even more discreet. There's nothing to give up the game here, not even the ghosted wings of the Amvox 2. The only way you know is the case back. That, in my opinion, is how good watch wheels co-branding starts. You come up with an attractive watch, an appealing mechanism, and then you add cues that tie it to the source material. But you make the watch first, and then you add the automotive accents. Okay, I'm going to pick my first winner of the night. Bum, ba, ba, bum, ba, ba, bum. Eric Johnson, you win. What do you win? Well, if you're like me and you're an Audi fan, then you know that Audi and Oris have had a wheels and watches co-branding deal for a few years. Oris's Arctics line has been associated with Audi Sport. Audi Sport is the new name of Quattro GmbH, which is the tuning arm of Audi, the equivalent of Mercedes AMG or BMW Motorsport. Fly your flag, show your colors with this Oris Switch Watches hat. So whether you're an Audi fan or not, this is an Oris hat with high style, a beautiful sporting tricolor of black, white, and a few shocks of red. Appropriate for all occasions. I've got you set for the summer to come. Congratulations, Eric. You're first winner tonight. All right. Friends joining in, I can see we have Captain Zed. VDBDG, better to wake up to a JLC than an iPhone. I agree, man. Any day of the week, I'd rather wake up to a Memovox of any stripe than an alarm clock. And I can see Alexi Samola joining us from Finland. I can see Todd Piasecki's with us, and Almeric, so welcome all. Of course, tonight the theme is watches and wheels. If you're just joining us, send me your name, your mailing address, your real mailing address, and your phone number so I can enter you in our drawing for these cool watch and wheel themed hats. All right, so now I was talking about accessible timepieces, and I showed you the JLC for under $7,000. We can do even better than that. Now, in 2015, Bremont expanded its Bremont Jaguar line, going from the original 6 pieces, which were created for Jaguar and the 6 owners of the E-Type lightweight continuations. Bremont made it a model line in 2015, and this might have been the most appealing model in that line. Now, technically, this is the Bremont Jaguar Mark II. A couple of features stand out. First and foremost, you want to shout out the design, which parallels the Smith's gauges that were found on the original Jaguar E-Type. Now, Smith's is well known in British watchmaking, essentially an extinct brand. Yes, have there been attempts at reviving it? Sure, but it's only the real thing once. So you have the design of those Smith's gauges, and this is probably their truest living ancestor. The design of the gauges on a chronograph based on a Valjoux 7750 base. You can see highly elaborated. It is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer, and you can see the punched out metal wheel of the Jaguar E-Type lightweight. Aluminum for sporting applications, punched out aluminum being a feature of both the frame and the interior. Now the watch features elements of the dial dashboard instruments that you might miss at first glance. First, note that the minute hand features a half blackened span. The blackened half essentially canceling out the inner portion that might overlap with the hours, both of them featuring a metallic conical cap, just like the original Smith's gauges. You can see on the constant seconds indicator at 9 o'clock that there's a small red swept portion, which is the equivalent part of the register that would have been the red line on the Smith's tachometer for the Jaguar E-Type. And of course you have the vintage Jaguar logo at 6 o'clock with a handsome typeface inspired by those original gauges. Now this watch for me brings it all together. You have 100-meter water resistance, you have finishing that is as good as anything you're going to find under $7,000. Is it mechanically applied? Yes. Is it standard? anything but. Handsome on both sides. You even have the Jaguar logo inset in the crown, which itself features a tire tread knurling pattern. This is an incredibly handsome watch that you can now get for under $4,500. 43 millimeters in stainless steel. Again, this is an aquatic watch with 100-meter water resistance. So whether you're timing your car trackside at Daytona Speedway or jumping into the surf on Daytona Beach, this one has got you set for fun in the sun, whether you go during the summer or the spring to come. All right, friends joining us. I can see more folks are joining in. Cam, perlage on the bridges. Why? Just to be different. To be perfectly frank, everyone does perlage on the base plate. Bremont and Zenith, for example, like to do perlage on the bridges. It's a little bit offbeat, but you know what? Aesthetically, it works and it's appreciated. The more you can do to set a sub $10,000 watch apart from other watches in the price range, the better, in my opinion. And that's a watch that you can actually pick up for under $4,000. It's about $3,900. A chronograph with handsome vintage themes, but a modern size? Yes, please. All right, right here, oh, of course, we are in wonderful urban Philadelphia, and you can hear our neighbors outdoors, Philadelphia's finest, doing a drive-by. I can see Noah saying the more perlage, the better. I actually agree. Michael D is saying Smith's made airplane gauges too, Smith's flight gauges. Good point. And Dominique Jr. saying Longines goes crazy with perlage. That's true, but Longines not on the table this evening. Okay, so now let's talk about other watches that are accessible but interesting. I don't think they get much more accessible and interesting than, for under $5,000, the Girard Perregaux R&D01 chronograph, East Coast Jewelry 20th Anniversary Limited Edition of 20 pieces. Now this is a watch that came out in 2006, 43 millimeters in stainless steel. Luigi Macaluso, who purchased Girard Perregaux and reshaped it during the 1990s, was the driving force behind this watch. Now the watch features a Girard Perregaux 3000 series manufactured base caliber with a 46-hour power reserve. We were talking about perlage. Note how Girard Perregaux uses petite perlage rather than a macro. I always appreciated that. But the watch features an internal rotating bidirectional bezel. It features a vertical clutch chronograph module. It actually features a 24-hour scale that gives you AM/PM for the time at center. The dial is spectacularly luminescent. So you've got just about everything you could possibly need here. You've got a chronograph, you've got an internal rotating bezel, you've got a 24-hour scale, and the watch is designed with a sort of inverted chronograph. That is to say, you actually start the chronograph using the trigger right here, and you stop the chronograph using the trigger right here. I'm going to wind this one up to show you how it works, because this is a bit of a special piece. My cameraman Harrison tonight doing yeoman duty. He's not feeling well, so spare a thought for Harrison. He's not at his best, but he's always at his best, if you know what I mean. He's a total pro. Harrison, thank you. Okay. So now I've got this wacky, no-holds-barred, motorsport-inspired chronograph ready to read. A couple of things I want to point out here. First, you see that special screw-down crown for the bidirectional rotating bezel. This is great for timing a single stint at Le Mans. When you've got a Le Mans prototype, and especially the big prototypes, they're going to have a 45 to 50-minute fueling interval. So if you want to line this up with your minute hand, while you have the chronograph running, you can time a second separate interval. Now the other thing that's important to remember is that the watch has a radial minutes indicator. You can't quite see it underneath the minute hand, but if you see that triangular index, the watch actually has a radial minute indicator, so you can read seconds and minutes off the center dial. I appreciate that because for me, a sub-register for minutes is just too difficult to read, and you want example A, B, and C, generally considered to be the first and last word in motorsports chronographs. Tell me you can read the minute off that Rolex Daytona. No, I didn't think so. That's why they give you this watch after you win the race. If you're still in the heat of battle, you're going to want this Girard Perregaux R&D01, designed in consultation with actual racing drivers. Like I said, it's a little bit backwards the way it works because, as you can see, once the watch is on my wrist, I'm going to be manipulating it like so. We could do a little wrist shot. I'm using my thumb to manipulate the chronograph. That's why it's arranged the way it is, for ergonomics. Now, of course, you can see that it also works backwards. as the chronograph action, if we can go back to our macro camera, the chronograph actually starts and stops with the bottom trigger because everything's inverted, and then you reset it using the trigger on the top. I love this watch. 20 pieces made. Okay, Todd Piasecki saying Rolex burned. Like I said, that's the watch you receive once you've already won the race. For actual motorsports activities, there are better choices, and we've got some of them on the table tonight. Eric Nielsen saying Central Chrono minutes, please. Tim, can we make this happen? Again, GP has got you covered. That is a fantastic watch and hugely underrated. While the R&D01 is not a limited series, that 20-piece East Coast jewelry, yellow and red limited edition, absolutely is a limited edition. I've been fortunate to see 2 of them in my 4 years in watches. Okay, and also I can see Noah saying, Captain Zed saying, He's referencing something Captain Zed saying, the Le Mans Reveille from Blancpain. There's also a Le Mans Reveille East Coast Jewelry 20th Anniversary Limited Edition of 20. That's an awesome watch. A GMT and an alarm. I highly approve. But not motorsports themed tonight. So we're going to move on to a couple of other watches that really do fly the flag for both auto enthusiasts and for value. By the way, guys, let me know, what are your dream cars? Let me see if I've got, okay, Todd Piasecki saying Ferrari 330 P4. Now that's a vintage Ferrari Le Mans prototype, back when Ferrari perennially competed to win both the Grand Prix World Championship and the FIA Sports Car World Championship, the Endurance World Championship. The last real all-out Ferrari effort to win in the top class was the late great Ferrari 333 SP of the late 90s. One of the greatest cars ever, with the V12 derived from Formula One that also found its way into the 1997 Ferrari F50, the 333 SP. I consider myself privileged to have seen its last few outings in anger. Ferrari, you got to come back to top-level racing. Peter K, Maybach S600. It's got sport and it's got muscle. And I can see Willing Harpoon is a fan of the 1959 Cadillac Eldorado. Yeah, I dig that. And Philip Sebastian Peterson saying the last Saab 9.5 Aero is the most beautiful car ever designed. That's a fact. It basically took as much of the Saab show car styling, and there was a coupe. There was a concept coupe. I want to say it was the Saab Aero coupe, and it was a beautiful white retractable canopy. And the 9.5 channeled as much of that into a passenger sedan as was possible. Dearly missed. All right, guys, keep your dream cars coming. Don Gizzle, Vision Mercedes Maybach 6 Cabriolet. He's a German. He's patriotic. He's going with domestic iron right there. I appreciate that. Nicola, Nissan GTR, watch lover in Hawaii, Acura NSX. The original or the new one? Let me know. Okay, now here's the thing. You may not have the money for your dream car, but I guarantee you this TAG Heuer Carrera 40th anniversary is probably within range. Now this is a sub $4,000 purist's watch from the modern TAG Heuer, and that's not something I'll say often. In 2004, we celebrated what was then believed to be the 40th anniversary of the Carrera. It was retroactively realized that the original watch came out in 1963. No matter. It was a wonderful occasion to pay tribute to the early Carrera 2447 and Jack Heuer, the last scion of the Heuer ownership, and of course you see his signature there in a watch that is one of 1,964 pieces. But here's the kicker. Stainless steel with a dial inspired by the reference 1153S, one of the Calibre 11 automatic Carreras that came later. The case itself is inspired by the earlier 2447. 39 millimeters, which means anyone can wear this watch with panache. It's an ETA 2894 automatic vertical clutch chronograph inside, and you can see in profile, I always love this. I appreciate it because it's a sign of attention to detail and also a sign that some money was spent. This is what a box section sapphire looks like. It's large. It has 3 dimensions. It's almost like a little bit of a sapphire prism. And it shows you that the designers worked overtime and the accounting department was willing to allocate the money to get something that's considerably more complex and expensive than a flat sapphire. You have that here on this limited edition 40th anniversary TAG Heuer Carrera. Now this is in every way a deluxe piece. You can see Calfskin rather than the original synthetic is used. The synthetic would have been featured in the 60s and 70s. And of course, the watch features a full and fully polished clasp rather than a pin buckle. This is a wonderful little piece that represents something like the best modern iteration of the Carrera. This is one that both TAG and Heuer guys revere equally and collect with equal opportunity. So again, if you're not into TAG but you're totally into Heuer, this might be the one that unites both threads of the company's history for you. A handsome opaline silver dial with that shock of red counterweighted Lancet chronograph seconds and those metallic gray registers. This one simply zings me, and I'm not a TAG or a Heuer guy. Okay. Top secret vid, Porsche 959 is my dream car. Yes. Yes. Okay, and I can see more comments coming through. Right here we have Edward Ledden, Aston Martin 177. I'm an Aston guy, and the 177 is one of those cars people will speak about in hushed, reverent tones 50 years from now on the lawn at Pebble Beach. That will absolutely happen. Sitting right on the 18th green. Okay, guys, I'm going to give away another hat. Bum, 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 bum. And Tobias Froelich, congratulations, you are winning our second hat of the night, Bell & Ross. Now, Bell & Ross, now a partner of Renault Sport, the revived French-based F1 team, of course, famously banned from Formula One after the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix incident in which Nelson Piquet crashed his car to help Fernando Alonso win. They're back in action and better than ever. This Bell & Ross cap is for you whether you're into wheels and watches or the more traditional Bell & Ross wheels and wings. Wear it in good health and great times. That's Tobias Froelich, you're our second winner of the night. For those just joining us, send me your name, your physical mailing address, and your phone number, because I can't email you your winnings, to tim@thewatchbox.com. If you've already entered in our past raffles, you're already in. If you've already won, you can win again. Don't be that guy who sends me 40 emails. It's happened. It's happened. Okay, so moving on tonight, I want to highlight a Bell & Ross watch that's not necessarily the most accessibly priced, but is easily one of the most memorable of the last decade, and through the miracle of pre-owned depreciation, the watch is a little bit more within reach than you might have expected. Now, in 2016, Renault Sport was back with the RS16 Grand Prix car, and of course, after their ban, they came back in good company with Bell & Ross as their timing partner. Now, this is the Bell & Ross BRX1 RS16. It's a limited edition of 250 pieces. This watch originally retailed for $24,200, which is to say it was solidly into Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore territory. I'm not sure that Bell & Ross has the street cred to play in that league. But for $14,000 pre-owned, you have my attention. There's a lot to love here. Now, the case is 45 millimeters, but it's 45 millimeters square. It incorporates titanium, ceramic, forged carbon, and natural vulcanized rubber. Who makes the case? Well, I'm glad you asked. G&F Chatelaine. Now, Chatelaine is one of the top case manufacturers in the world. They're one of the best in the business. They are actually owned by Chanel, which also owns Bell & Ross. So by serendipitous circumstance, one of the top case makers in the industry is making the case for the sensationally packaged BRX1 RS16 limited edition chronograph. Now, what's inside? Well, it's essentially a ETA 2894 or equivalent 2892 with DD module. Vertical clutch chronograph, 42-hour power reserve. What really sets this watch apart is that even though it has a spectacular motorsports-inspired style, and you can see that's right down to the carbon fiber inlay of the strap, the watch is also 100 meters water resistant. So it is a full-service sports watch for land sports, for water sports, and let's face it, Bell & Ross, they have aviation DNA. Should you take to the sky, this watch is properly disposed to do so. I'll also say this, the open dial adds another dimension of depth and luster that would be otherwise lacking if it were shut down, closed, and cloistered. So you can see more of the caliber on the dial side than you can on the reverse side. And you know what? That's not a bad idea for an aggressive motorsports-themed sports watch, and you can see Renault Sport and their marquee on the case back. This is a watch that's also ergonomically superb. It's a 45 that doesn't wear like a 45, and let me show you what I mean. Because the watch is square, it takes that original 2005 Bell & Ross instrument watch aesthetic, and it adapts it for a purpose that is, again, motorsports oriented, but ergonomics are ergonomics. The case fit perfectly when it first bowed in 2005, now composed of titanium forged carbon, rubber, and ceramic. It's lighter than ever on the wrist, and you can see I can wear this watch easily. Even though my wrist is only 16 millimeters in circumference, this is an easy fit for me. I could be wearing this on a smaller wrist than I actually have. So Bell & Ross nails the ergonomic equation with first-class styling, first-class ergonomic engineering, and a high style that, in my opinion, is probably just as provocative as Hublot, but for half the price pre-owned. What are you giving up? This is an awesome watch that I happen to love. I think Bell & Ross is working hard to reinvent itself, and I think land sports and motorsports is a worthy thread alongside their primary pillar of aviation. All right. Let me jump back to our chat box and see what's going on. You guys always keep me good company during Watches Live. By the way, guys, Watches Live will now be airing at 6 o'clock every Tuesday. So the 6 o'clock time slot, prime time U.S. Eastern, is now going to be our regular time. Mark your calendar. And I'll be back with you 6 o'clock every Tuesday with a new themed show. All right, I can see Great Lakes Watch saying very discreet. Okay, I'll admit it's not, but then again, in Formula One, your eardrums are gonna bleed, your eyes are gonna pop out, and your head is gonna explode. So really, it's not about discretion. The only thing discreet in Formula One is how much money the endorsements are paying these drivers. We know what they make in salary. Again, oh yeah, and also how much Ferrari is paying the FIA to write the rules. I didn't just say that. Okay, Russell 996, Ferrari 288 GTO. Also, I see True Lie saying he was late. Don't worry, we're happy to have you any way you can make it tonight. Also, Nigel Levin saying, wow, fits a lot better than I expected. Do not underestimate that BRX1. It wears light, it wears compact. Okay, so let's say big, yellow sports chronographs are not your thing. I understand. It's perfectly acceptable to prefer a more discreet, traditionally sized, and traditionally styled timepiece. But let's say you still have a soft spot in your heart for the Scuderia. You're a fan of Ferrari. You're part of the Tifosi. You scream Forza at the gates of the test track Fiorano in Maranello, Italy. Well, what do I have for you in a traditional vein for the man of discretion and taste? Well, in 1999, to celebrate the anniversary of the original Scuderia Ferrari, Girard Perregaux, then Ferrari's high horology partner, released the watch you see here. This is the Girard Perregaux Scuderia Rattrapante Foudroyant, a watch featuring both a flying second and a split-second chronograph capability. It pays tribute to that span between 1929 and 1999 that runs the era from Enzo to Michael Schumacher. Here's the thing. Enzo Ferrari was originally the factory racing team principal for Alfa Romeo during the interwar period. So the Scuderia Ferrari was originally the factory racing outfit for Alfa Romeo. That's why Ferrari race cars started to be built in 1947, but Scuderia Ferrari, the race team, dates back to 1929. As you can see, this is a limited edition of 250. Let me wind this one up, because when I say it's a Rattrapante Foudroyant, I kind of have to show you what I'm talking about. The visual fireworks with this one are spectacular. Easily equal to the horrendous fireworks related to those McLaren engines of the last few seasons. But while those things exploded unintentionally, this thing is visually explosive by design. I'll talk a little bit about the Calibre, but I think the important thing to remember with this watch is that it was the product of a sincere mutual admiration and friendship. Luigi Macaluso, the man who was the driving force behind the development of the RND01 chronograph for racing drivers, he was himself a rally champion, a European rally champion. He was the Italian distributor for Girard Perregaux during the 1980s. In the early 90s, he bought the company right around the time Luca de Montezemolo, Enzo Ferrari's hand-picked successor, was taking over Ferrari, redesigning the road range under a new regime and reimagining the Scuderia to put it back on top in Formula One. So out of mutual admiration, they had a prior friendship from before Montezemolo ran Ferrari and before Macaluso owned Girard Perregaux. In 1994, they agreed to a partnership that led to these co-branded efforts that are already collectibles and are appreciating on pre-owned markets. Now, of course, with the split-second chronograph functionality, you have the ability to time two concurrent events, such as two automobiles crossing a start-finish line. And with the flying second, you have the ability to measure an interval down to 1/8 of a second. So it's both a foudroyant lightning second and a rattrapant, which is a fly-forward second hand. A spectacular watch, it also has a gorgeous combination of gilt-style printing with red highlights, a gloss black dial, rose gold leaf hands, and a beautiful lollipop counterweight seconds hand. This is as good as it gets in terms of style. And again, under $12,000, I have to say this thing brings Patek Philippe style with Girard Perregaux manufacturer credibility and a wonderful backstory. The tale I just told you is the ultimate icebreaker when you're trying to convince a friend who's into cars that he also needs to respect watches. Macaluso and Montezemolo, Ferrari and Girard Perregaux. This was as good as it got during the 1990s. Okay. And Carlos T saying, I see the 5070 like numerals. That's right. There's a lot in common between the 5070J yellow gold Patek Philippe chronograph of the late 90s through the 2000s. I believe that watch had its final hurrah in 2009. So 98 to 2009, Patek was making a watch that looked a lot like this. And that watch wasn't a split-second foudroyant. So this to me is, of all the watches on the table, along with the R&D01 and the JLC Amvox, those are the three I would take home for myself, not counting the one Amvox 2 that I already own. Okay. Sebastian Palacios, split seconds, great watch. Philip Sebastian Peterson, I like that watch. And Andrew Holt, Montezemolo wore a Rolex GMT Master. He had many watches. He was like Bill Clinton in that regard. He had a whole quiver of watches that he was seen with. Also, I think it's important to note that Willing Harpoon asking, really under 12K? Yes, really under 12K. Okay, and Edward Ledden, Tim, what do you think of the Amvox 3 Tourbillon GMT? That's right, the third watch in the JLC Amvox series was a GMT with a ceramic case and a tourbillon. I love it. I think the ceramic and platinum version is probably the purist's choice, but I've slowly warmed up to the ceramic and rose gold version, which in my opinion has just enough accenting rose gold to appear rich and desirable, lustrous and sexy without appearing to be all Breitling for Bentley. Another Wheels and Watch co-branding we can discuss another time. Okay, now Edward Ledden, that's my answer right there. Todd Piasecki saying GP is the winner tonight. Guys, keep sounding off. Simon Holt, his Grail car, a 1969 Alpha GTA. And I can see right here, we have, tell me your, okay, Simon Holt, he once sat in Eddie Irvine's 288 GTO the day his dad bought his V12 Jaguar for retirement, and he got to drive a Ferrari 456 GT. Good day. I need your advice, guys. I'm still shopping for my next car. I'm looking at Porsche 9972, C6 Corvette ZR1, preferably in a weird color because I like weird colors. And I'm also starting to think crazy thoughts, like an Aston Martin Vanquish, the original V12 Vanquish, or the Ferrari 612. I don't have Parker Vehicle Virgins money, so I'm not going to be showing up in a new Lamborghini Huracan, but within the scope of possibility, let me know what you think might be a good idea, because I'm currently driving a Chevy Volt. Hey, gets me where I'm going. And saves money for fun. All right, guys. Keep coming with your Grail watches and your dream cars. Simon Holt, yep, 9972 is great. Professor Pesca, Jaguar F-Type R. I was actually thinking of the last Jaguar XKRS. The one that was made from 2012 roughly to 2015, the XKRS, the one that was almost vulgar. It was so extreme. Something about that car in French racing blue just zings me. And it's one of the few cars I've ever seen that actually looks good in white. and doesn't look like it's a service car for a public utility. Okay, Razzie 23, or Razor 23, Vanquish, done deal. I am an Aston Martin fanboy, so I might be on board with that. Okay, Edward Ledden, go with the DBS. You're not wrong. And Lamine L saying, how about an Audi R8 for some awesome German engineering? I would actually say a 6-speed Generation 1 R8 4.2 would be very, very agreeable. Very agreeable. Okay, so let's continue on our tour du jour of watches and wheels. Now let's say you're into classic American muscle, but you've also got a penchant for motorsports. You're on a budget, but you want high style. How about we talk about a watch that you can pick up for under $3,500, new for 2016, and a limited edition of 1,963 pieces. This was the Baume and Mercier Capeland Shelby Cobra limited edition with Cobra accents, and note the motorsports logic with the chronograph registers for hours and minutes, a separate color from the constant seconds. This is a watch that pays tribute to old number 15. The 1963 Cobra 289, the first Cobra 289 CSX 2128 that ripped up the FIA endurance racing scene in the hands of legendary drivers like the late Dan Gurney that year against the likes of Maserati, Ferrari, and all comers from the old shores of Europe. This is a 44mm watch that gives you large wrist presence, significant historical acknowledgments in the form of the yellow on black, which was the color scheme of CSX 2128, without being overtly branded. The only real Cobra branding is the counterweight to the seconds hand on the dial side. Now on the back, it goes all shell, and all shell would be proud. But this is a very versatile watch that, where smaller than 44 might suggest, it's less than 52 from lug to lug. And let me give you an idea of what this one looks like on the wrist. They do a couple of things that I like. First, it's a big watch with short lugs, so a little wrist can wear it. That's 44mm, and again, under $3,500. It's a Valjoux 7750 48-hour power reserve tank tough. It's actually a Valjoux 7753 because you have the classical balanced tri-register layout. This is a lot of style for not a lot of money, from a real company that's been around since the 19th century, and thanks to Richemont ownership and a huge popularity in the Far East, will be around forever to service your watch. It also has some deluxe features you might not expect in this price range, such as an alligator leather rather than calfskin strap, and a rubber underlay. Yes, a vulcanized yellow rubber underlay to separate the leather from the oils, heat, and moisture of your wrist to extend the life of the strap, plus a full steel deployant clasp rather than a pin buckle. This is a watch that punches above its weight in terms of value and specification. And again, if you're a motorsports fan, you like your watches and your wheels, but you don't necessarily want to broadcast to the world that you're wearing a car watch, this gets it done, just like old CSX 2128 did in 1963. Okay. Friends, let's pick another winner. Barry Thornton, you are our next winner of the night. And what am I giving you? I'm giving you a TAG Heuer hat. So one of the most celebrated names in motorsports, from Grand Prix racing during the 1970s to modern associations with motorsport. You can see we've got the 40th Anniversary Carrera Jack Heuer Limited Edition. No, you're not taking that home, but the spirit of that watch robustly embodied in this TAG Heuer cap. Whether you're a fan of the vintage F1 circuit or the modern racing scene, TAG Heuer is the ticket for motorsports in the modern motorsports world. Okay, so you got your tag, you got your Heuer, you got your hat, and we've still got one, arguably, the #1 name in autos, period, to give away. With the Tricolore and the Scuderia shield, this is the Hublot Ferrari hat. It's going to be the last one of the night, so stay with me, guys. I'm actually going to try to pick a name live out of the chat box. If I see your email and I see your name is in the chat box, I'm going to be a little bit predisposed to put my fist on the scale when picking my last winner. All right. Bum-ba-ba-bum-ba-ba-bum. By the way, guys, keep the suggestions coming for my next car. I'm loving this. My friends back at home and my entire family know me as the car guy. They don't know where the hell the watch thing came out. They don't know where that came from. I got out of the Navy and suddenly I was in the watch industry. And that makes no sense to them. When I talk about cars, they're like, oh yeah, that's Tim going off on cars again. So, bum-ba-bum. Edward Ledden saying you could go with a Rolls-Royce Wraith. Not really my style. I want a driver's car. I would love to have a manual transmission, but at least some sort of automated manual. I don't think I could deal with a torque converter and a BMW Rolls. I don't think I could. Also, Sebastian Palacio is saying Mercedes has some reliability issues. Yes, especially the W215 coupes that I love. Active body control equals bankrupt. And I can see Almeric So saying no love for Koenigsegg. When I was in college, back in 2002, I had a Koenigsegg poster on my wall, and everyone was like, what the hell is that? That was before they even had a production model. I got the poster from Sweden, postmarked by Christian von Koenigsegg. He was still a startup operating out of a barn back then. Believe me, I love Koenigsegg. I just cannot partake. That's the equivalent of the Grail watch I can't touch. Also, to be honest, I'm a 612 Scaglietti type guy. In the world of Ferrari, I could not live with a 488. I could not deal with that attention. I want the 612. It's big, it's bulbous, it's awkward, and it's anonymous. It shrieks like a banshee, but it's absolutely stealth, to the point that the valet is probably going to take the keys from the guy with the C7 Corvette before he takes the keys to the 612 Scaglietti. All right, guys. Speaking of Ferraris, let's go whole hog. Okay, who has the franchise these days? You know, it's Hublot. Hublot and Ferrari. A match made in heaven or hell, depending on your perspective. To me, it fits. From the time we saw the first Hublot Ferrari models in 2012 to the present, we've seen some worthy iterations, from the weeks-long power reserve of the LaFerrari to the Big Bang Ferrari Unico models like you see here. This is a limited edition of 500 from 2015, white ceramic, so it's got that scratch resistance. It's also got a bit of Miami Beach Sunset Strip profile. Yeah, you've got your carbon fiber. It's a motorsports watch. And yes, you've got your flyback chronograph, because it's the 3-day power reserve column wheel Unico flyback in-house chronograph caliber. You've also got the Cavallino at 9 o'clock, almost disappearing against the Calibre 1241 base. This is a watch that offers an automotive-style, seatbelt-inspired quick-change system, so you can dress it up or dress it down as the occasion warrants. I got to admit, I dig this. Is it for me? No, it's not my style, but I respect the in-house caliber that's executed to a high standard, imaginative design, flamboyant character, the value-added flyback, long power reserve, scratch-proof ceramic case, the 100-meter water resistance, the quarter-turn locking crown that's unique to the Big Bang Ferraris, and that awesome strap-swapping system, plus a matching twin-trigger carbon fiber inlay clasp with a hidden strap minder system. There's a lot to love here. It's like the 488 for me. I appreciate what it is, and I respect what goes into it. Not necessarily for my driving gloves, and this is not necessarily for my driving wrist. But let me give you a wrist shot, just so you get a sense. I've always said Hublot understands that you can make a bigger watch, but you can't make a bigger customer. So you've got to design the watch to fit on the customer you have. And as you can see, my wrist is 16 centimeters, but even though this is a 45mm watch, it doesn't look comical. I mean, you can see the watch is large, but that's the aesthetic. Is it going to disappear under a cuff? No. Is it the best choice for black tie? I would say absolutely not. But this is a watch that you can pull off anywhere, as long as you've got the personal panache to wear it with a straight face. I actually like that watch a great deal. Again, not for me, but big respect. Okay, Philip Hayden saying, that's a Miami watch. It's a show-off. It's show your money at the beach style. Yes, that watch would look perfectly at home at Muscle Beach. I agree. Jesus saying, did I just hear you saying you can dress it up? No, you'd probably have to dress down and remove your long sleeve to dress that up. But I will say this, at a sports casual sartorial scenario, you could probably pull the watch off. Okay, Simon Holt, I just bought the entire Miami Vice box set. I'll never forget when I first joined Watch You Want and I was driving out of New York, leaving my old home for my new down in Miami, I turned on the radio in my car, and the first song that came on was In the Air Tonight by Phil Collins. I will never forget that. It was a sign of things to come, and what a 4-year run it's been. Even as I've left Miami behind. You can take the boy out of Miami, but you can't take the Miami out of the boy. I miss you, South Florida. All right. Okay, real quick, what could possibly lead us to our conclusion? Before we give away the Ferrari watch, let's take a detour to Afalterbach and Schaffhausen, respectively. Here we have two generations of Iwc Amg. Some explanation is required. Panerai made the original AMG watches. The original AMG luxury watches in the modern era were El Primero powered Panerai Luminor chronographs like the PAM 105. In 2004, a memorandum of understanding was signed between Iwc and AMG. It made more sense. Geographically, they're not too far apart. Northeastern Switzerland and southern Germany, and of course Schaffhausen being a German-speaking part of Switzerland and an unconventional German-speaking Swiss watchmaking center. Again, it just made sense, like a hand in a racing glove tailored for the purpose. This was the initial effort in 2005. Now this is the reference 3725 Ingenieur chronograph. Note the absence of a date purist. This is a very, very clean dial. It uses the Calibre 79350 Valjoux-based automatic from the Portuguese automatic chronograph, but with a gorgeous motorsports-inspired tricolor dial with a wonderful single axis that runs from 12 to 6. The watch also has the AMG imagery on the case back, and I will show you exactly what I mean. This is not the AMG racing team that would later emerge as Mercedes Benz F1, but that's the original logo from Aufrecht and Melker. Aufrecht, Melker, and it was originally Grossbach before it moved to Afalterbach. So that's AMG. So this was 2005. This watch, and this is not part of the series, but this watch was issued in a series of 55 pieces with a CLS 55 AMG in 2005. If you bought the car, you got the watch. Again, this is not part of that series of 55, but it's the exact same model that was part of the package deal. And if you own one of those, send me a wrist shot. I'll throw you up on Monday mailbag. Okay, so fast forward to 2013. Now we're talking manufacturer calibers. Now we're talking a watch that, quite honestly, just zings me and fires on all cylinders. Let me see if I can wear this one, because I want to show you that though it's big and bold, it does fit a normal sized wrist. Okay. This is the Ingenieur chronograph silver file. So it's not explicitly an AMG watch, but it is very much Mercedes-Benz. Engine turned chocolate dial. That's about as good as it gets aesthetically. Balanced, relatively simple and plain, easy to read, original and beautiful in its execution. This is one that explodes in direct light. You can also see that it's steel, so it's an everyday watch, 45 millimeters, but on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, you can see that this in-house Calibre flyback automatic chronograph with 68-hour power reserve would absolutely fit on an even smaller wrist. Now we've got a silver file, the original Silver Arrow Grand Prix car on the case back. Actually, I'm not sure if that's the original. The W25, I think, was the original. I think that's a W125 that contested 12 Grand Prix and won half of them during the 1930s. This is a 1,000-piece limited edition, and it comes in two flavors. Remember, this is the IWC in-house Calibre. I want to say it's the 69365. And you can see the watch features two different dials. One of them is silver and engine turned, and the other is chocolate and engine turned. Mechanically identical, dimensionally identical. This is a spectacular watch in either flavor, and you don't have to be into Mercedes Grand Prix. Hell, you could be a Ferrari fan and wear this one in good conscience, because on the dial side, there's nothing to give up the game. Plus 120 meters water resistant, just like the Rolex Daytona. This one's good for trackside work or Daytona Beach surf. Okay. Jesus saying perlage on the dial, you better believe it. Okay, so a question from Harpoon, is Claudio's show gone? No, it's being done in a recorded format. Claudio will be periodically on the channel as a friend of Watchbox Studios and a consistent feature among our roster of stars and watch enthusiasts. Actually, I don't know if we have any real stars, but we've got watch enthusiasts. So, Russell Washington, Tim, where's the Porsche digital chronograph? I have never seen the Porsche Eterna counter chronograph in person. The day I get one of those in, it will be on this show, whether the theme is watches and wheels or not. Okay, who's taking home the big prize? No, it's not a watch, it's a hat, but it's a great one. Okay, bum, 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 bum. I go to my email. And our winner is Bob Linton. Bob, congratulations. Longtime friend of the show. Bob, you have won the Scuderia Ferrari Tricolore. And look, it's official Ferrari swag. Not making this up. Hublot Ferrari hat. You'll never forget that it's Hublot. And you'll never forget that it's Ferrari. We got more of this cool stuff, guys. By the way, if you want to enter, if you're watching this recorded and you want to enter my next raffle, just send an email to tim@thewatchbox.com, your real name, your mailing address, and your phone number, and you're automatically rolled into the next entry for the next show. All right, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who joined me tonight. All of the car suggestions, I deeply appreciate them. Andrew Holt, Lamborghini Gallardo. I guess if a Ferrari 612 is possible, anything's possible. I'll take it under advisory, to be continued. This is episode 1, Tim's Next Car. And this was Watches Live 16.